Is this a better situation, you think, for the Lakers in the world where they now have to sell themselves?
Yeah, I think it's better, but will it work is another question, right? So Magic has been in some of these free agent meetings. This isn't like the first time he's been in these meetings. So it's not his mere presence and charm and the fact that he's Magic that's going to matter. It's the fact that they'll have a different type of front office, that they won't have Mitch Kupchak and Jim Buss running things anymore. And those guys, I mean, I don't know. Have you spent time with Mitch Kupchak, like personality-wise? Like, how would you describe him? Like, if you know, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I'll describe him. Okay, we would sit in the press room. He was always there and available in the press room at Staples Center. You could just go up to him while we're all eating dinner before games, and I would sit with Mitch, and it was like, I mean, just to have like an 8-minute conversation was hard. Right? Like, like it's just not like he's not that personality. And we would have meetings with free agents. Like it was, I've heard stories of how poorly the LaMarcus Aldridge first presentation was, where like he doesn't have a slickness to him, where if you're a free agent listening to him, you don't necessarily feel like this guy has a plan that he wants to even share with you. Whereas a team like Phoenix came in there and says, oh, we're going to trade for Tyson Chandler. We're going to do all this. They had all of these ways that they were going to set up the team. Whereas Mitch is so close to the vest, like he can't even go there with a prospective free agent. So, will it help? Yes. Will it be better? Yes. Will it work in the long run? I don't know. I don't know that players like the young guys these days. I don't know that Magic means the same thing to them that he means to people of our generation.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. There is still the allure of Los Angeles, right? And there is, I guess, a young nucleus. Do we call it that for the Lakers?
For that, honestly, like, you know why the Lakers haven't gotten people in free agency? I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but they don't have a team yet, right? Like, they don't have talent yet. Like, people go where they can win. People go where they're going to thrive, and like the Lakers have a bunch of kids. But, I think they need to get, like, first you look at Houston. They had nothing. They were asset acquiring, right? They're in the asset acquisition mode for a long time.
Right.
Finally, they get James Harden. But it takes a couple of years for James Harden to become what he is right now. And now you can walk into a room and people would want to play with him, right? Like Eric Gordon would want to play with him. Dwight Howard wanted to play with him. But obviously that didn't work out. But, like, it's not that Houston is this great city that everyone wants to go to. It's that you have a player that people want to go to play with. And Lakers don't have that yet. Like, they're not there yet.
But if you could peg, Ramona, somebody who's currently on the roster that could become that, who would that person be?
Honestly, like right now, the guy that people want to like not play with, but they want to play for is Luke Walton. I would say Brandon Ingram is the one guy out of this group that they have that I think could become something, but is he Tayshaun Prince or is he Kevin Durant? I think right now, from what we've seen, he's a little closer to like Tayshaun Prince someday. And that's not a superstar. That's just a player that you want on your team when you want to win. Like, Tayshaun's obviously a really good player. He's like 19. Like, we don't know anything yet. And I think there are a couple. They need one star before they can get the second star, and that's why those two contracts they signed this past offseason were so crippling and so bad for this franchise, because they actually had two max salary spots, but because they gave away all of their money to Timofey Mozgov and Luol Deng, they really only have one, and it's hard to convince one guy, like let's say a Gordon Hayward or Blake Griffin, Paul George, Jimmy Butler, whether you're going to trade for him or whether you're going to sign him as a free agent. It's really hard to convince just one guy to come on his own. Mm-hmm. It's much easier to convince two guys.
Do you think the Lakers should have pulled the trigger on Boogie Cousins if there really was a trade involving Brandon Ingram for him?
Yeah, I think there was, from what I've heard, that there was a lot of people in the Laker front office wanted to do that trade, and just because they need a star. Like, one star makes it, you can get more stars. But there was some serious questions about how would Boogie play in LA? How would he thrive? Like, he's a small town guy. He's from Mobile, Alabama. Like, I don't know that he's a big city guy or wants to be a big city guy. Mm-hmm. Like, it doesn't, just because you're from a small town doesn't mean you have to stay there all the time. But there's certain people who are much more comfortable in that environment. And, like, I would say he's far more comfortable in a New Orleans than he is in the spotlight of LA.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.